Next, I have the Dean of Division of Adult and Continuing Education, what we call ACE, Ms. Wanda Hughes, who is also executing duties for the Division of Arts, Sciences, and General Studies, what is referred to as ASGS. Ms. Hughes, welcome.
Thank you.
And I have the Assistant Registrar, Mrs. Kerisa Kelly. Mrs. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College is an inescapable institution in the sense that everyone in St. Kitts and Nevis, or I would hope so, knows about the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. If they have not attended it, they know about it, or they would have had someone who attended the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. In other words, the college is very much part and parcel of our Kittitian and Nevisian society. It is felt. The graduates of the college, they are in several sectors within the society and so on. So the college plays an important role in our society. I have often heard people say, some people say, oh, there's no point in going to CFBC. Why go to CFBC? Dr. Rotham, why go to CFBC?
Well, CFBC, I mean, it is a great educational opportunity at a lower price. That's here within the Federation. You also have the situation where you may have younger persons who may not know what they want to do, and so the CFBC offers young individuals leaving high school an opportunity to come and to explore, to make decisions about what they would really want to do later on. It is also a pathway for undergraduate degrees. So the college, it is a safe haven, if you would want to call it that, but one which is meaningful. It is also that place where individuals in our society who do not have the credentials to move on. I mean, we're talking about our older population. We do not only cater to those who are leaving secondary school, but individuals who do not have the necessary credentials and they want to even upskill. You know, the college is that place to come. There are those among us who are skilled individuals but have no certification. Of course, we cannot forget our technical and vocational division, and so the college is that place to come and get certified as it relates to persons augmenting, you know, their opportunities in that regard. And of course, you know, here at the CFBC, we say, you know, if you, whatever you want, just come and speak with us. We may not have the program, but especially through our division of ACE, businesses, you know, they need training, they need to put on a course. Come, we'll craft it for you. You know, so we are here to also customize based on the needs of the Federation.
Now, education has been impacted severely by the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, we have seen how students have been affected. We have moved from having classes, perhaps 100% face-to-face classes, to going online. Well, we've always had the online, but it's just that it has been exacerbated because of the pandemic. Students learning in the classroom and learning in general has been disrupted because of the pandemic. Educational institutions have had to make adjustments to the way that they give instruction and so on. What are some of the adjustments that have been made at CFBC, given the present climate that we have in terms of continuing to foster that high quality of education within the COVID-19 environment?
So here at the CFBC, I'm glad, Lester, you mentioned that it's something we have always done at the CFBC, and having served with us as a member of faculty, I know you are very much au fait with some of the things that we would have done. At the CFBC, you would have always had some online experiences, but the COVID has basically put us into that situation where we have had to be more, we have had to formally operationalize the blended learning. So we have our face-to-face classes, but of course some of these classes have to go online, and this is of course to facilitate larger classes. It would have been a challenge because of course we have to cater to the needs of students, because there are some students who learn better face-to-face, but it all calls for a reorientation, which is what, at the CFBC we do believe in adaptability, and so we have also had to help those students to transition into online modality. Students, we try to have students have at least once per week face-to-face where possible, but for our classes which are practical, greatly practical, for example, our natural science classes, those classes we have to cap those classes. We are looking at the CFBC classes have always been capped, but we have taken into consideration looking at capping some of those classes, basically to carry out the lab work in a safe environment. But outside of that, we look at the fact that we have to measure our physical spaces, ensuring that we adhere to the COVID protocols. And of course, all of this that we do, it is governed by our CFBC COVID policy. We do have a policy which was crafted by Dr. Rondalyn Bradshaw and team. And so we are very very strict, and we have received favorable reviews from the NUC, when visits are made. We have to pay attention to the resources that we have, and we are very much in tune with the needs of our faculty and students, and so we have to take into consideration, the safety of our personnel. And you have, for example, in our lab spaces, they can accommodate so much, but at the same time we try our best, and we are very much aware that for certain spaces like our culinary programs, we have only 12 stations. The chemistry lab can only accommodate 30. Same thing for chemistry, for biology and physics. So we just try our best to work accordingly, and we are open, of course, to suggestions from our faculty as it relates to making the necessary modifications.
Okay. Dr. Rotham, I will come back to you, but I will move on to Ms. Hughes, who is the Dean of ACE, Adult and Continuing Education. Now, Ms. Hughes, the Division of Adult and Continuing Education caters to persons who would have gone through probably high school, left high school already, and who have a desire to continue their education. I mean, education is something that is ongoing. It really never stops. But what is the importance of the division of adult and continuing education, and who specifically does it cater to?
Adult and continuing education is particularly important because, unlike every other division at CFBC, we have no entry requirements. And so we can actually cater to anybody. and we do. We have students, in terms of age range, last year we had 14-year-olds to 50 plus. And then, of course, we get students who have the usual 5, 6, 7 CSEC subjects. And we have students who left school with nothing. We have students with work experience. We have some of them who they don't have any credentials. They have no work experience. So we are the division with everybody. We also even accommodate ASJ students when they complete, but they don't have all of their units. They can actually register in our classes and complete while they're working. So that's basically the response to that.
You know that for various reasons, sometimes people did not get an opportunity to finish their schooling. Some of them realize that in order to advance within the society, they need to have at least a few subjects. They realize the importance of having some sort of a skill that is going to help them to move up in terms of their salary and their quality of life and all of that. Now, apart from the CSEC subjects that are offered, what sort of a skill-based subjects do you offer at ACE?
In ACE, we don't offer a lot of skill-based subjects. We do, however, have a baking series where they can do, it's bacon, cakes and cookies, then cake decorating, and breads and pastries. Those are short courses, 8 weeks for each one. We also do, and this particular course will be on the schedule in September. It's the upskilling of office professionals. And it was designed specifically to deal with persons who would have maybe gone into the workplace before technology advanced to the place where it is, so they may not be ultra comfortable with what's going on right now. We also do, we have a motor vehicle course, servicing your vehicles. It was actually designed with women in mind. But we've actually had men go through that course as well. And I would mention, and this is actually a TechVoc course. TechVoc has the office administration program. There's actually an evening section so that persons who are working can actually come and do the associate degree. It takes longer because, of course, they're part-time. So there's that attempt, not just in ASGS, but in other divisions to accommodate older students, persons who are already in the workforce. There are also some courses in health sciences. I think it's elderly care course, which caters for, and I think some of them are nurses, I know, but anybody involved in that particular area can take advantage of that. And again, it's done outside of the regular workday.
Now, Mrs. Kelly, you are the assistant registrar. What is the application period and process for entering into programs at the college?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. Initially, our application period would have closed off on July 31st. However, because we want to cater to the public and our applicants, we have extended the early application period. So it's going to actually end on August 15th, and then that will be followed by a late application period, which will end August 31st. Now, the process is very, very easy, and in the event that you encounter any challenges, we are here to assist you to the process. You just have to visit the college's website, and that's cfbc.edu.kn. I see Miss Hughes is watching me. But yes, you visit the college's website, you click Apply Now, and you are directed directly to the online application. Now, I think, Miss Hughes, I think I got your hint. If you're applying to ACE and you're having challenges with the online application, then you can come and get a paper application. But this is only available to our ACE applicants. Everybody else, you're expected to do the online application via the college's website. Okay?
Right. Ms. Souza, I'm going to come back to you because you were for quite a while the Dean of the Division of ASGS, and now you're executing duties because ASGS, from what I'm told, a dean has been elected, but that dean is not yet in the position. And so therefore you are executing duties. Now, ASGS offers both, CAPE, it's CAPE subjects. Now, what is the generally required for CAPE students in terms of their success and all of that? What is required?
Outside of the usual entry requirement, which would be 5 CSEC subjects, including maths and English, students need to be aware of prerequisites because not each one, I think there are 1 or 2 exceptions, but most of the subjects have a prerequisite or prerequisites. So for instance, for a student doing economics, the prerequisite is mathematics, which of course most persons probably wouldn't expect. And so they have to be aware of what the prerequisites are, because even if they're accepted into ACE, it doesn't mean they can do any and anything. Based on the prerequisites, they need to select wisely, because sometimes we have students who select subjects that they struggle with. And then when you look at the subjects they actually have, you realize if they had selected something else, they'd probably be excelling. They need to, attendance and punctuality are important. We very often have problems with attendance because students seem to think once they're there and, the semester is well on its way, they're free to come to 2 hours a week as opposed to 5, and so on and so forth. And that is problematic because usually you miss half an hour of an ASGS class and a whole lot of material would have been covered. They need class materials. And I'm talking textbooks, I'm talking going to the library to access material that's on reserve, actually using handouts that are given, and so on and so forth. They have to be committed to doing the work that's required for the SBAs. SBAs are important because, of course, they get a minimum of 20% of the final grade, and in some instances, I think in entrepreneurship, it's something like 60% of the final grade, and that's just the SBA. So if you do well on an SBA, you basically walk into an exam knowing you already have, let's say, 18%, 19% of your final grade. And it means even if you don't do as well in the exam, you can still manage to get a good grade. And if you do really well in the exam, it's almost like an automatic grade 1. So students need to understand that. They have to recognize that CAPE is not CSEC. I think we have students who come in and they think, I've done well at CSEC, so I'm going to do well at CAPE. That's not the way it works. They have to actually raise their level, because CAPE is a whole other level. And they have to work hard. Even the ones who are intelligent, highly intelligent, they have to be committed to doing some hard work. Communication is also important. We tend to have students who they have a particular problem and they don't communicate that issue to anybody. They don't speak to the lecturer, they don't speak to the dean. And so a lot of times when we pick up the problem, it's at the last minute. You don't see SBA and you ask a question and you realize the problem was there for the entire semester, but nothing was said. So that's also very important. And something I'd like to mention is actually the quality of the grades. Now, CFBC accepts students based on CSEC passes, but the reality is that the students who have higher level passes perform better. When students come in with 5, 6, 7 grade 3s, they tend to struggle. So for parents and even the high schools, I think that information is important, that the students need to try to do as well as possible at the CSEC level, because that will then give them the foundation for the CAPE level.
So much of what is happening at the CSEC level determines, to a large degree, what happens when students get into the college.
Mm-hmm.
If students are not taught at the CSEC level to think critically, to be analytical, just to have all these subject passes, to learning by rote, then when they get into CFBC, and I have had that experience of students come in and they have 6, 7 subjects, but yet start asking them why. Start asking them to explain. Up to recently, one of my classes down at TechVoc, I still sometimes teach, and one of the students said to me, Mr. Williams, why are you just asking us to explain, to explain, to explain? Because they have much more difficulty with explaining. It requires critical thinking and higher level skills, really, reasoning skills. So what is being done to help students to transition from the CSEC level, from the high school into the college? What sort of a support services are there in terms of how they manage their time, counseling services, study help, all of that sort of thing, to assist them with really integrating into CFBC, because it's a tertiary institution and it requires more, as you correctly said, than the high school. And even if you come in, and you correctly said, with 10 subjects and you think you're bright, being bright is not sufficient. You still have to work hard, because you can have people who are not as bright as you are and yet do better than you are because they work harder than you have worked.
I assume that's my question?
Yes.
Okay, at this point in time, the college is developing a student services department. So we have a director of student services who is Samantha Fox. And in that department, we also have the counselor, Dr. James. And so when students come in, the orientation is actually managed by that department. And that's a very important part of their experience, because it exposes them to all of the different aspects of the college, to what they need to do when and where, and so on and so forth. That office also manages the advisement process. And every student at CFBC is assigned an advisor, well, except the ones in ACE. But all of the full-time students have advisors. And so the advisor will have a list of students. The students know this is my advisor. And so the idea is, when anything pops up, they know I could go to look for Miss so-and-so, Miss so-and-so. And I can take my problems there. But the other part of it is that the advisor has a responsibility to meet with those students. So even if the student decides I'm not going to show up, the advisor will find the student. The deans, of course, are also another line of defense. We have an open door policy, so basically you have a student, the student can find you in office. I personally give students my number, and my timeline. And so I get messages, I get calls, and so on and so forth. So they have different avenues for reaching out to somebody if there's an issue. So we do the formal academic advisement, but in addition to that, we as students may have personal issues that are affecting academic performance. We're also open to that, and of course, Dr. James will deal with the real personal problems that lecturers and deans may not be equipped to deal with.
You know, the management of time is crucial. When you get to the college, to CFBC, you're now dealing with a semester system. You're not in a high school where you're going at 8 o'clock and finish at 3:30 and you have classes one after the other. And so there are times when you may not have a course, a class taking place. And you may think, well, look, this is my free time, and so let me go down in the square to lie. And oftentimes you see students up and down in Bastille. And sometimes I wonder, why are they not in the library? So the management of time, Ms. Hughes, I think is crucial. How do they transition from that high school into the semester system? And it's not just about CFBC. You see it on university campuses and so on as well. How you manage. I'm not saying that you're going to be in the book all day, because you need some recreation, you need some play, you need to go to the parties and so on too. But it's the balance. I think it's striking that balance.
I think that's where the advisement process is very important, because, and even the orientation process, because in orientation, it's one of the things that we talk about, that they no longer have an 8:30 to 3:30 school day where they're in class constantly. You may have only one class on a given day. And so that's where we introduce them to that idea of self-discipline, so that, you know, yes, I'm going to learn for an hour, but after that, I either need to go home and hit the books or go to the library and hit the books, as opposed to liming all the time. They get guidance about study timetables, study groups, those kinds of things, so that they're encouraged to, as you said, party, but at the same time, don't think because you only have maybe 16 hours in the classroom or 20 hours in the classroom, it means that you have the other 24 hours, if we're thinking in terms of a 40-hour week, as liming time. Because, of course, that would mean that when the exams come around, you won't be ready. And even in relation to coursework, and right now we have, in all of the divisions, we have continuous assessment. If they don't stay on top of the assessment, then at the end of the semester, they're going to be in trouble.
And I think that ties into what Dr. Rotham said in the beginning when I asked why go to CFBC? Because then you introduce the semester system, and if you want to continue on to university, it's a semester system that you're going to find. And so therefore it prepares you basically for higher education. Right. Now, Dr. Rotham, the college offers teacher education. There's teacher education. There is the TVEMS, the Technical Vocational Education Management Division of the college. Some people think that ASGS is for the bright people, and TechVoc, what we refer to as TechVoc, is for the slower people. What is your take on that? And tell us the importance of really having a technical, vocational education.
I remember the first year teaching at CFBC, and I had a group of students, all boys. I was at the technical division, and I said to them, whatever you do, do it well, and let no one tell you that your skill is worth less than that of anything else that anybody would want to do in academia. And I said to them, if I'm going to build a house and I'm going to tile it, I am going to start to get nervous, because when I think about the costs and all that is associated with it. And I say that just to emphasize that, we all have different competencies, and we do not we can't, the lawyers and the doctors, they are not the only ones who are relevant. We need our agriculturists, we need our, we need everybody. We need our persons to make our furniture. You know, we have a timber program. Air conditioning and refrigeration, all of these skills are important. And so my take on it is whatever you do, do it well, because there is value in everything. And so it is just, it just depends on one's inclination. And even when we look at agriculture today, it is no longer seen as a discipline in which you just get your hands dirty. So much technology is incorporated with agriculture, and I mean at CFBC we have an agriculture studies program. Just the other day, you know, we celebrated the opening of our hydroponic shade houses, and I mean when we look at the value, you're talking about economic diversification, you're talking about that ability to really celebrate different gifts and talents. I mean, what if everyone in the world were the same? It would be a boring place. And I think it would just be a monolithic construct. I mean, nothing varied. It just can't work. I mean, even if I want to move outside the realm of technical, vocational studies and look at our day-to-day jobs, if the garbage collector does not come, what will happen? It's all about, you know, sanitation. Everything is important. So until we start to see each one as being beneficial to the development of our society, then we will get nowhere.
I'd just like to add that I don't know what happened back when, but nowadays, if you look at the applicants across CFBC, you'll see that TechVoc will have the students with 10 and 12 and 15 CSEC subjects, just like ASGS, just like health sciences, just like teacher education. So there's no longer that business of I only have 3 subjects, so I go to TechVoc. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right, and it really should not have existed in the beginning,
in the first place.
In the first place. But it is the thinking that
Yes.
was then, but we have evolved.
Yes.
Hopefully, we are evolving.
The students have evolved.
Yes, to recognize the importance of technical and
Yes.
vocational education. For example, our society will not advance without those technical skills. We need the carpenters, we need the masons, we need the plumbers, we need the mechanics,
And the IT specialist.
the IT specialists,
Yes.
and so on. And these are the people who can make a lot of money.
Oh,
They can
yes.
even make more money than the lawyers and the
More money.
doctors.
And let's just speak about, you know, the auto mechanics.
I mean, no longer are you just dealing with gas oil,
Engine oil, whatever.
it is. You are looking at computerized components and systems. So these are things persons need to understand. When you look at the field of informatics, you know, robotics, when you look at, you know, our robotics team did so well, you know, on an international level. I mean, that came out of our technical vocational division, you know.
And you mentioned agriculture, Dr. Rotha, but the whole business component of agriculture, entrepreneurship,
Entrepreneurship.
people setting up their own businesses, being self-employed is so important rather than going and just working for somebody. Because sometimes we think we have to go and sit in an office or to have somebody to work for. But we can start our own businesses. We can become the entrepreneurs and we can become the employers. We can employ others rather than just being an employee. So at the college, what is being done in terms of helping young persons, rather than preparing them just to go and work in somebody's office, but giving them a mindset, a business mindset that, look, you can be your own, you can have your own business, you can be your own entrepreneur. What is being done in that regard? Because we have to move away from this thing about going to work for somebody else and help our young people to develop that entrepreneurial spirit, but give them the skills and so on so that they can go out there and start businesses. Ms. Hughes. For example, at go ahead.
Okay. I actually want to begin with TechVoc. And the reason I'm beginning there is because the TechVoc programs have built-in entrepreneurship, all of those programs, business law, and so on. So those students in particular, when they leave CFB, they very often don't work for anybody. At the CAPE level, the business major is always the largest group. And of course, now there's CAPE entrepreneurship, which is all about, of course, your own business, how you go about setting it up, how you go about being successful, and so on and so forth. And the reality is that off the top of my head, I can think of quite a few ASGS graduates, not just CFB graduates, TechVoc graduates, but also ASGS graduates who have never worked for anybody. Some of them went off to university and they came back and they went straight into their own businesses. So there's that component built in directly in the case of TechVoc, in the case of ASGS, for the business students, it's a major part of what they do.
And yes, and Dr. Rotham, you mentioned agriculture. We are seeing today the importance of agriculture. We have to be able to feed ourselves. Food security. The COVID-19 has taught us so much. Are we just sitting down and waiting on these ships to come? We realize what happened at the onset here in St. Kitts and Nevis when we had our first cases. What was people's concern? Food security. That they were not going to have enough food. But they were waiting on, of course, we import so much food, especially in terms of our vegetables and the things that we can grow here. We import so much of it. So we have to wait on the ships to come. We are not self-sufficient. And it has driven home the point that agriculture is important. Tourism, yes, but we saw what happened to tourism because of the pandemic. But we have to be able to feed ourselves. And on top of that, the whole business component of it, of agriculture.
So, and as you rightfully said,
during the COVID, we really saw the manifestation of all of that. And that is one of the reasons why we really are trying to promote the agriculture studies program. And we are welcoming males and females. Gone are the days when you have professions that are gender specific. And we are hoping that we will have more persons applying to these programs and understanding that food security is very important, but you also have so many other branches of agriculture. So this CFBC, it's not the place to stop. It is the place, as I would have said, you come and use it as that stepping stone to go into more specialized study so that, you can come back and enhance the federation, help to change mindsets. Because that is what it is all about, changing mindsets.
A lot now is being said about having, first this began by saying a STEM education, S-T-E-M, and then they put the A in there, STEAM. They didn't have it in there all the time, but suddenly they recognized the importance of that A, which is for the arts. And what emphasis is being given on this? Because when we're talking about, in terms of development, and development of countries, societies, there are certain areas that countries are focused on in terms of their national development. And you want to have people who are going to contribute to that national development, especially in certain areas.
I mean, at
CFBC, when we, as you say, STEAM, for the proponents of STEM, I would say STEAM because, of course, the arts make us humane. Yes? So at the CFBC, you know, in the various divisions, we do promote, say, you know, our sciences. I'll start with that. In the Division of Health Sciences, we see we have a BSN program, and we have, and the deadline for that is actually the 13th of August. So for persons who are interested, you still have more time. We have that program, we have the Nursing Enrolled program, and we see where we are even looking at making the sciences relevant, looking at how the sciences can be used to respond to national needs. And we see the execution of the COVID course at CFBC that would have yielded, you know, persons really came in and they learned much in order to help to combat the COVID situation here. Ms. Hughes would have mentioned the elderly course. We look in the division as, again, we're going back to TVEMS, the agriculture. That, again, it's science, so it's very important. Within the division of ASGS, we, even amid COVID, we are not saying to individuals we are reducing numbers or anything. Our labs do have spaces that there are space restrictions. And so one of the things we realized, one thing that happened last year, students came in during October, and when we asked them why come in so late, they did not realize that the CFBC was making allowances for students to enter without CSEC passes, because that's what we are doing. We are using the subject students would have sat just to know, okay, I did this at CSEC. We are not waiting on the passes. And so once students have studied natural sciences at the CSEC level, they are welcomed at the CFBC, or lab spaces, they are limited. And so what we are saying, first come, first served, meaning we want you to come in early, because the earlier you come in, the more you get. When you come in October, you have missed weeks of classes, and that puts you at a disadvantage. When you come in earlier, you are able to better understand, is this where I want to go, or am I doing the sciences because of my friends? You know, so we are trying to encourage persons to do the sciences, but also math, because many times persons don't want to do math. But once you're doing your sciences, you also have to remember the relevance of the math. And of course, the arts, we do have our foreign language program, which many persons, they do not want to study foreign languages. They think it is so difficult, but we are very accommodating in that, you know, we will even try to modify, some teachers try to modify the schedules in order to welcome students into class. So we do recognize the importance of having a STEAM education. The same thing applies to the division of teacher education, where we do have a TVET. We do have a TVET program, so it's not just the primary and the secondary program, but there is a TVET program for persons who want to get that teaching certification in the technical and the vocational areas.
Okay. Mrs. Kelly, Dr. Rotham mentioned that there's no CSEC passes. For example, people may think that if they don't have certain CSEC passes, they cannot enter into the college. No, she said that that is not so. So if people enter without certain CSEC passes, what is required of them while they are at the college?
Okay, so to enter into the college this year, we are actually using the timetable, the CSEC timetable. So to maintain the integrity and the quality of our program, we want to make sure that you would have at least attempted the subjects that are required for the particular program of interest. So that pertains to our full-time courses, not our franchise programs. As it relates to our franchise programs, you'll have to meet the requirements. So if you're interested in applying to teach education, that's franchise from UWI, or you're interested in applying to the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, you'll have to have the entry requirements at the point of entry. Now, for our technical applicants, the students who are applying to TVEMS, you are going to have to go through an interview process. So the faculty will screen the students to ensure, that is really the area that they're interested in, and to ensure that, you are suitable for the program, for the specific program. And then we'll offer you a provisional acceptance to the college. So when I say provisional, it just means that you are given a chance to enter into CFBC to pursue your area of interest, on the terms or on the conditions that we're giving you, that you will pass the subjects and you will qualify for that program. Now, a question that we often get is, Mrs. Kelly, what happens if I fail? Am I going to get kicked out of the college? Certainly not. Remember, we would have spoken about our adult and continuing education. What happens is that if a student is unsuccessful, in obtaining a pass, we would direct you to ACE where you can pursue the subject. And we have support systems in place. So we are not going to kick you out of the college. We welcome all students, and we're giving you a chance to pursue your dream. And if it is that you're falling short in any way, then we have a safety net in ACE where it is that you can pursue the particular subjects. The only thing is that before you graduate, you must meet all the entry requirements.
Now, the college offers other programs. It has other partnerships. I know that there are UWI programs. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Dr. Rotham?
Well, we do
Have, as you say, some partnerships. Mrs. Kelly mentioned our franchise programs with the University of the West Indies. So we have the Bachelor of Science in Nursing with UWI Mona. We have the associate degree in teacher education with Cave Hill, and also the postgraduate teacher diploma. So those are franchise programs we have with the UWI. We also have some arrangements with other universities. For example, University of the Virgin Islands, where our students, they go, and in terms of their tuition, they do not pay anything more than what the Virgin Islanders would pay. And of course, when it comes on to students who, in terms of course mapping, there is that availability where students can get credits for courses, and of course, credits equal money. So there is that opportunity, and we also have relationships with University of Nova Scotia. Right now, we have 4 students who have earned scholarships who will be going on to study at Nova Scotia in Canada. We have, others, but, these are the ones that are the most visible at the moment.
You have
right.
a level 1 UWI course as well. Level 1 UWI, Ms. Hughes?
Yes, we have that relationship. It's the memorandum of understanding is currently being upgraded. So at this point in time, we don't have an incoming class, but it actually allows students with CAPE certification or traditional A levels, as well as associate degrees, to enter to do the first year of study at CFBC, which of course means significant savings, because it means they're not traveling, they don't have to pay for accommodation, they can live at home, their parents feed them, and so on and so forth.
And this was separate and apart from the UWI Open Campus?
Yes, it is. In fact, we don't do any of the programs that they have at the Open Campus. So there's really no competition. We work with them as opposed to competing against them.
Now, Ms. Kelly, how do DPED students apply to CFBC?
Unfortunately, the deadline for DPED has passed, but I do have some good news for you, no fear. What happened is that I've had discussions with UE, so we are going to do a late application process, but it has to be completed by the end of this week. So if it is that you're interested, I'm going to ask that you give us a call or that you send us an email, and I will send you the paper application and the list of documents that are required. And to expedite the process, we, as in CFBC, you will submit them to us, and then we would forward them to UE for you. But the process has to be completed by the end of this week. On a regular basis, though, just for information, if you're interested in applying for the DPED program, you apply directly to UE. So that's UE Cayfield campus. You will apply directly to them, and then you will submit your supporting documents to them. There is also the option of you submitting your supporting documents to CFBC so that we can forward it for you as well. But if you're interested, get your application in by the end of this week.
Okay, the teacher education program, to build on that, because the DPED is teacher education, basically. The teacher education program, to enter that program, what is required to do a particular area of specialization? What is required?
In addition to the diploma in education, we do have I will say three, but it's really 4 associate degrees in that you can do early childhood, primary education, secondary regular, and then secondary TVET. Okay, so I'll go first with the early childhood and the primary. If you're pursuing those, if you desire to pursue those, you need to have at least 5 subjects. These 5 subjects must include English, mathematics, a science subject, and then a social science, so either history, social studies, or geography. If you're interested, however, in the secondary regular program, in addition to having 5 subjects, including English, no mathematics here this time, you would need to have at least 2 CAPE units in the area in which you desire to major in, and then at least 1 CAPE unit in the area that you want to minor in. So for example, if it is that you would desire to major in social studies, you would need to have 2 CAPE units in sociology, and then 1 unit in the area that you want to minor in. As it relates to the secondary TVET, you will need to have 5 subjects, including English and mathematics, and then a CSEC subject in the area that you're going to specialize in. So Dr. Rotham would have indicated that, we do have a TVET program. There are 2 options available there. You can do industrial arts, or you can do the home management. So for example, if you're interested in doing the industrial arts, you'll have to have something either like woodwork or technical drawing, something of that nature. Okay? Okay, and I'm getting a cue for Miss Hughes again. All right, so, and I love Miss Hughes because she really does cater to that adult crowd and the persons who may not have the entry requirements. There is the option of mature entry. So you might say, well, okay, Mrs. Kelly, I am 30 years plus. I enter the system, I don't have all the requirements, but I have at least 5 or more years of experience in teaching, but I don't have the entry requirements. You can apply for mature entry. The only thing is that you'll have to create a portfolio as proof that, listen, even though I don't have something on paper, the CSEC subjects, even though I don't have the qualifications, I am competent in delivering in this particular area. So that is why the portfolio is needed. So we do cater to the mature crowd if you don't have the entry requirements, but you have years of experience in teaching and you want to get an associate degree, then you can also apply to TGED.
Okay. Now, Ms. Hughes, ASGS, it's a 2-year program, and they have a CAPE diploma. Tell us a little bit more about that and the option. There's also an associate degree that one can pursue, and there's a diploma option as well. Tell us.
Okay, as at the moment, because the CAPE program keeps evolving, so maybe it will evolve again. But at the moment, when students come in, ASGS is a 2-year program, and because of maybe I should back up. Students up until, I think it was 2019, would have come in and they would have done the CAPE associate degree. However, at that point, CXC upped the requirements for the associate degree to 10 units. The 10 units are not necessarily the problem. The problem is CXC also specified what subjects students need to do. And so the problem we ended up with was we have students who come in, they may have 7, 8, 9, 10 units, 10 C6 subjects that is, but very often they do not have prerequisites for the courses that are required for the associate degree. So for instance, students must do an arts and humanities unit. We have students who come in and they have not done history, no language, no literature, no nothing. And so those students are not prepared to fulfill that requirement. And so because of that, what we had to do is we had to go back to looking at the traditional A-levels. So now when students come in, what they really, what they get in those 2 years would be the CAPE diploma. The CAPE diploma would consist of communication studies, Caribbean studies, and a minimum of two unit courses, which would be the equivalent of 2 traditional A-levels. However, we tend to encourage students to do 3 2-unit courses because some universities want 3 A-levels when you're entering. For students who have the relevant prerequisites, they may be able to pull off that associate degree in the 2 years, assuming that the timetable allows it, because sometimes that is the difficulty. The timetable doesn't necessarily cater for everything that they would need. So what we're encouraging students to do is, if it is that they want to continue and do the associate degree, come back for a 3rd year and do the extra units. And that will also allow them the time, if they're thinking about it from the very beginning and they realize, listen, I don't have an art subject, then they could always say, you know what, let me go to a class and do French, Spanish, literature, whatever it is. And then they will have the prerequisite to do it at the CAPE level, so that those 2 years they can prepare to do that extra unit. So basically what we've done is we've shifted to a focus on university entry requirements, since we cannot necessarily cater for the associate degree for all of the students.
Now I realize that college, if you don't have math, college math is no requirement for the CAPE, is it?
There are 3 maths courses. And what we're doing right now is we encourage all students who come in and they didn't pass their CSEC maths, they do integrated maths, and it's done over 2 years. So that will give them time to get the necessary foundation so that they can excel. The science students are encouraged to do pure mathematics. The business students are encouraged to do applied mathematics, in particular Unit 1. But the economics students, interestingly, really need Unit 1 of applied mathematics, and ideally either integrated maths or a unit of pure maths. So because we have those 3 options, it allows every student to find something that is relevant.
Now we also have, Dr. Rotham, hospitality. There's a hospitality section at the college. Of course, you know, tourism is our main product. Basically, it's our main income earner, and we have to prepare people for that sector. And there is the hospitality wing of the college. What can you tell us about that?
The hospitality and the culinary
Programs, you do have a certificate program and an associate degree program. And these programs, they cater to students who want to serve in the hospitality sector, you know, culinary industry. And these are, it's not just to come and to learn to cook. That's not what the program is about, right? The program, it is about, it is where I always say to the director, it's where the arts meet the sciences, right? Because of course there is so much more to the hospitality and culinary program. And so students, they come in and it is an opportunity for them to learn the finer side to being a host as well as to executing their culinary craft and, you know, honing their culinary craft. And we always lean on the expertise of those who are practicing within the industry. We do have our full-time lecturers who are experienced, but we also have adjunct lecturers who are in the field as well. And so that's one of the ways we try to make the program relevant, right? It's not just about coming and learning about, you know, how to follow a particular recipe or how to make a bed, or, you know, it is much more than that. And so the expertise of our faculty, it really caters to building the knowledge and the skills that are relevant, just to make sure that our students remain current with what is going on a regional and on an international level.
Now, the importance, certification is extremely important, especially if we're talking about regional integration. And if you can't find a job in St. Kitts or Nevis, you can go to Trinidad, you can go to Jamaica, and to be able to work. In terms of those hospitality and those technical courses and so on, what is being done in terms of to make sure that people are certified and that when they go elsewhere, that would be recognized?
Right now at the CFBC, that's one of the areas that we are very much looking at developing, ensuring that we do not just offer CFBC certification. We have been talking about trying to see how we can ensure that our graduates, that when they leave, that they have, you know, whether it's national vocational qualifications or Caribbean vocational qualifications, but that's also a dialogue we need to have with the TVET Council. And so though that is being explored, most recently our curriculum development officer, Mr. Fritzroy Wilkin, he was very instrumental in spearheading CFBC Workforce Needs Assessment Survey. And what that was, it was basically to gather information that is current, information that is relevant, that basically tried to see how CFBC could better prepare to participate and participate on that kind of, you know, that level. We basically wanted to see how we could better participate in building social, educational, economic, workforce relationships. And this survey would have gone out to entities within the societies like SCASPA, Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Architects Association, Small Business Development, Small Entrepreneurial Development Unit. So these are, we are very much concerned about CFBC being relevant, and so this is just one thing that we are trying to, because we are also looking at how we can review some of our programs, especially in the technical and vocational areas.
Okay, because that is important. In terms of people moving and having their qualifications actually recognized.
Yes.
Extremely important, especially we're talking in terms of regional integration.
Yes.
We're speaking in terms of the CSME and things like that. Now, I know that the Barbados Community College, there are some programs that are linked to other programs or other colleges, like the Office Administration and Management. They're linked to the Barbados Community College. So that program, that certificate that they get is part CFBC and part Barbados Community College.
Yes, and even with the, you spoke about, you know, the culinary and the hospitality program, there's also that opportunity for students to move on to UWI to complete a first degree in that area. And of course, our relationship with Nova Scotia community college, as I would have said to you, 2 out of the 4 students, they will be going on to pursue scholarships in those areas.
Now, the hospitality program, is it synchronized with what the Caribbean Tourism Organization requires?
Yes, it is. It
Actually follows the curriculum for that particular organization. Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay, suppose I'm in one program at the college and I want to transfer to another program. Because that happens, sometimes I enter a program and for some reason I recognize this program is not for me. And I want to transfer to another program. What do I have to do?
There is a request form, a transfer request form that the students have to complete, but it is highly recommended that before you make your decision to transfer, that you have a conversation with your academic advisor or your dean or at least the counselor so that you can get some career guidance and ensure that you're making the right decision. So students will complete a program transfer form, we process that form, or the request rather, and then they get approval to move into the new program of interest.
Okay. Now I want us to go to the phone lines. But I'm looking for the numbers to call, and I don't see them here.
Publicly said that.
Okay. We'll continue. How do students or prospective students wanting to enter the college, where can they go to get information?
Our CFBC website is furnished with information, so you can visit the college's website, that's cfbc.edu.kn. Additionally, at some high schools, we have an application guide. So sometimes you might be curious as to what are the entry requirements for a particular program. You can have a conversation with your counselor. Well, schools are closed. Okay, so schools are closed. So you can come to the CFBC website to get information. But if you have the personal contact information for your school's counselor, you can also have a conversation with your school, with your school's counselor. You can also call the college and you can speak to any of our officers. You can call 465-2856, and we are here to assist you. We are here to help you go through the process.
Okay. Do you have, for example, sessions with the schools?
This
like
question is directed.
like a fair or something where, you know, students can come and they can ask questions, they can, you know, look at in terms of what career would I like to pursue and things like that.
We normally partner with the guidance counselors at the high schools, and we are normally invited to career fairs. But with COVID, you know, these sessions could not be held. During the second form period, in second form, when the students are also about to select their subjects, we are also invited to make a presentation to both the students and the parents. And then what happens as well, just to ensure that we are giving our applicants the relevant support, the counselor, who is a part of our Department of Student Services, he also facilitates and hosts a pre-orientation session that, you know, gives the applicants an idea of all the programs that we are offering. He does a career assessment with them just to ensure that, okay, we are on the right path. We are selecting the subject that really will get me or will assist me in whatever career I'm interested in pursuing.
Now we are going to go to the phone lines, and the numbers to call are 465 2555. That's 465-2555. The overseas number is 1-718-577-2916. That is 1-718-577-2916. And the cell number, local cell number, 665-7218. We welcome your calls. Okay, we have a postgraduate diploma in education. Recently, I've also heard about a master's in education. So we've jumped from the postgraduate diploma in education to a master's in education. What happened to a bachelor's in education?
The bachelor's in education, it is an area that is...
We have been exploring it, and so along with the dean, Dr. Penny Feather, who is very enthusiastic about ensuring that this is made available to the Federation, we are now looking at when is the best possible time to start this program, and I do know that the CFBC Board of Governors, they are also very much focused on making this happen, and so it is just a matter of time before we do get word to the public as to when this will be offered.
So there has already been acceptance from the university and all of that to carry out this program?
We are very much in contact and communication with Cave Hill. Yes, and so it is, in terms of the options, what is needed, all of that is being worked out.
Now, who is the postgraduate diploma in education for?
The postgrad diploma in education, this is for our professionals, persons who would have gotten first degrees or, master's degrees. We have had persons with doctoral degrees who are in the system, in the education system, working, but they do not have any pedagogical training. And so in an effort to fine-tune their pedagogical skills, they decide that it is indeed worth the while to pursue studies and training in this particular department. And so it is a one-year program that is it is focused on the craft of teaching rather than the content, but the methodology and all of that. So it is for that individual who has already you have the content, but you want to be more in tune with the skills within the classroom.
So it is graduate studies.
It's, if you want to call it, yes.
It's graduate studies, so you'd have already had a first degree minimum.
What's the difference between that? Does it carry more weight than just the normal teacher education where you do the 2 years at UWI? It carries more weight because it's graduate studies? What?
It's just professional. It's professional certification. So if it is, you have programs. Say you were to get what you call it now, bachelor's in education. Let's say you have a bachelor's in education, as opposed to getting a postgraduate. It's just that you would have, for the postgraduate, you would have chosen the route of getting degree in a content area. So, for example, you'd have gone and gotten a degree in literatures in English, but you did not seek to enhance your teaching skills. You want to be more in tune with that. Then you pursue that. It's just professional certification.
Which is required for teaching.
For teaching.
In a particular area. In
a particular area. And in some cultures, you would hear them, they talk about the trained graduate, because there is indeed that distinction between if you're a trained graduate as opposed to you're a graduate teacher but you're not trained. So you have the content but you are not trained to become a teacher. There is that distinction when you get that postgraduate in education. In other islands you may have four-year teacher education programs where you leave a fifth form and you just go straight into into teacher training, but that is also content and methodology. The postgraduate program, it is just 1 year. It is done on the assumption that you already have the content, so it's just to hone your methodological skills.
Ms. Hughes, you wanted to say something? I see you. Okay, I know in some countries you cannot teach unless you are teacher trained, especially in some of those developed countries. Even if you have a PhD and you don't have that, you use that term, the pedagogy, and you know, the whole professional certification, they will not allow you into the classroom to teach.
Yes, because it is, I mean, would you trust someone
Who says he's a doctor without having gone to medical school?
It's like your license.
It is your license.
That really is what you would say, that you are a teacher.
Yes. And as we move forward to the professionalization of the teaching profession, these are things that we have to look at, and we really have to ensure that within the Caribbean we are on par as it relates to to teacher certification, because of course in some countries you have to be recertified. Just as being a doctor, you know, you have to be recertified in some countries. I mean, we can't expect the knowledge of yesterday to do for today. Things change.
Now, Ms. Hughes, in terms of registration for CAPE exams, you know, that area, what can you tell us about that?
Registration for CAPE exams would normally, in ASGS, it tends to be a little bit earlier, so it may begin in October, late October. In ACE, it begins in mid-November, and it goes down into December. Even if we have a cutoff date, the reality is that we're going to ensure that everybody's registered. So even if they're late, we'll still accommodate them. However, the system closes on December 31st. So we usually close around the 17th, 16th of December, and students must be registered by that time. So basically what we do is, one of the reasons we have that extended period is we try to accommodate the pay period. So if persons are paid monthly, there's a pay period in there. If they're paid bi-weekly, pay periods are there. We can't really say what the fees are, because of course the fees could change at any time. They are CXC fees. So we charge what we are told that we should charge. This year, on next registration period, there's going to be something that's a little bit different. Because of all of the COVID issues, this year students were allowed to defer exams. This means they will not pay for those exams for the next examination system. However, it's important that they know that they have to register. Okay, we will not know X person, so they are going to have to complete the registration form. Even if they've deferred all of the subjects, they must complete that registration form, or we may miss them completely. Some of them will probably remember this person deferred exams. For the ones who deferred maybe one exam or two, but they actually wrote exams, they will actually only pay for the subjects, the additional subjects. So that is going to be something that's completely different this year. We don't know if it will continue after this year, but there will be that.
Okay. Now, in terms of I know that there's also a program at the college called the Performing Arts. Is that offered in CAPE? Because that is another area for our young people.
Currently, no.
It's not been offered.
Okay, we lost our lecturer, so
Okay, but it was being offered at
yes,
one
it was.
point. Okay. So you lost a lecturer. Is there any vacancy out for a lecturer in performing arts? Do you have vacancies? There are people out there who are looking for jobs, you know, in terms of the human capacity at CFBC?
It's one of those programs that, I mean, the performing arts.
We offered only one component, which was dance. So the hope is that when it is revisited, we can also look at theatre and music and make sure that CFBC has a robust performing arts program, you know.
Because
But
you
it
already
wasn't
offer,
as-
you already offer the
Not-
culinary arts, which is one of the arts, really. So you have the performing arts, which is drama and all of that, theatre.
Yeah, theatre.
You have dance.
As Miss Yu said, we would have offered
Music, but, you know, yeah, to make sure that it's robust. And, I mean, all of these things, we also have to have dialogue with the schools, because you find so many persons, they may play an instrument, but they have not done Royal School music. And that is very important, you know, having to do the examination. That is very important. You know, that certification in music, it is important.
That was the difficulty we had with the music.
Yeah.
Because the students have to do composition, music composition, and we had a group of students and only one had done Royal School of Music, the theory. The others had not done theory at all. And so it made it almost impossible.
In terms of the extracurricular activities at the college, because those are extremely important, what are some of them?
Well, we have, of course, our
Perpetual Literary and Debating Society. We have the History and Heritage Club. We have a Science Club. There is also a Photography Club. We have Toastmasters as well. COVID would have come and caused much disruption, and so I know that that is one aspect of college life which would have been interrupted. I know that some of the clubs, they still tried, and you know, they tried to meet, etc., but COVID really had a devastating effect on the social aspects of college life in that regard.
I know the debating society, the CFBC Literary and Debating Society. I think it's an extremely important group. I know that Ms. Hughes has had a lot of work and time put into that, because it just goes along with what a college student should really be about. You know, the ability to think critically, to debate, to research, to put forward an argument, to look at things from issues from different perspectives, look at every side, and so on. So I think that is one of the clubs at the college where students can become well-rounded. You know, it helps them as well with their public speaking skills. It's basically everything, the ability to listen, to think on your feet, all of those things that you really would like to see in a college student, really. Ms. Hughes, I think.
It's also a club that allowed for
Developing regional networks because of the Leeward Islands debating competition. And so from my experience of dealing with that club, I can tell you that the students actually developed networks so that, you know, 5 years later, they will be telling you somebody said hello and it's some debater from Antigua from 5 years previously, but they've maintained that relationship.
A lot of employers, and if we are preparing students for the work. A lot of employers, what they're looking, you may have the subjects, that's fine, but employers are looking for people who are able to communicate well. Speaking skills, writing, those things are extremely important. And sometimes I may deem them even more important than just having these subjects. Because if you have all of these subjects and you're not able to communicate well, to speak well, to write well, to relate well to other people, then it's a problem.
Just to illustrate what you're talking about, there was one employer who indicated that the applicants came, they all had the same certification, all of them had done well, and so they actually looked at the extracurricular. And the decision was made based on who had been involved in that. But extracurricular activities are also important when it comes to university applications, because universities also look at that in determining which, especially in competitive programs, when they're determining which students they're going to accept, they look at extracurricular activities.
Because you want somebody who is not just heady, but you want somebody who is well-rounded, a well-rounded individual. And that is what I think CFBC must be producing. Students who are well-rounded. A holistic education. You began holistic development.
And
To me,
that's true.
and that is what education is. Otherwise, what is it?
What purpose does it
Serve. And that is why I would have said, we are looking at the review of our programs, because we do need that. We can be more relevant within our society, even as it relates to, I suppose that would have been about the division of TVEMs, but even college-wide, in terms of students and their, if you want to call it, their employability. Looking at, those courses, as you say, the critical thinking skills. I often say to students, these are the things that are going to separate the sheep from the goats. Because if everyone is coming with the same number of passes, and you must have something that distinguishes you,
And also being ethical. I think that is extremely important. We need to producing people in our society who are ethical. So many times we have persons in our society, whether they be professionals, whether they be politicians, whether they be whatever profession, but they are not ethical. And that makes the difference. Because to educate minds and not educate people in morals is basically you're producing a menace for the society. That is what is happening. Because we may have a lot of intelligent people, educated people, but how ethical are they? Are they educated criminals? Are they involved in all kind of hanky-panky behavior that really goes against what a holistic education should really be about? And to me, that is critical in terms of what institutions are producing. Not just people who are bright, who may have a skill, but people who can do the right thing ethically.
Persons of
integrity.
Integrity. People of integrity. Ms. Hughes, would you agree with me?
I agree with you, and I that area is well, there's an attempt. I don't know if the attempt is necessarily successful to cover some of that in some of our general education courses, areas like Caribbean Studies. And I think TechVoc would have courses that speak more directly to that issue.
Ethics. Ethics, which is moral philosophy, basically.
Which should have been one of your courses.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is my,
So-
my course,
Yes.
my area. That's why I can
Yes,
speak
I
about
know.
it. You know, but
Maybe there isn't enough of a
Focus, but there is some focus.
because at the end of the day, that is really what makes for a society. The integrity of the society. How conscious are we in terms of how we treat other people? For example, our tolerance, our respect, the manners that we have, our compassion for others, the ability to respect differences. I'm not you and you are not me, but we can live together in society and so on. Those are the things that really speak to education.
and which the school,
The education system really in and of itself cannot do alone, because, you know, education, the entire thing needs to be seen as an ecosystem, which is why when we look at some societies and we marvel, it's not just about the school, it is about the philosophy that guides the nation, you know, because as I say, it is an ecosystem, so the home, the church, everything merges. Everything comes together.
Everything comes together and plays a part, because the colleges, the schools, they're an important part of how we socialize people. It's not just about people learning a skill in terms of, you know, woodwork or whatever the case might be, but who you are as a person, your whole human development as an individual. That is what really makes a society a society. Is there anything else you would like to say before we go? Anything that you want to add that you may have thought that, you know, was not covered? Mrs. Kelly?
Closing thoughts. So we want to thank you for joining us and for listening today. Just a gentle reminder that the early application period has been extended to August 15th, and this will be followed by a late application period which will end on August 31st. Miss Hughes, do you want to say something?
I think if there's one thing I would say, it would be in relation to the ACE fees. Most people seem to think that our fee, which is $375 per semester, relates to a single subject. And that's not the case. In relation to CSEC, it is $375 per semester for any number of CSEC subjects. So if you're doing one subject, it's $375, but if you're doing 3 subjects, it's also $375 per semester. So that's something I would like to clear up, so that persons understand that it is probably the best game in town, because it is super cheap.
For me, I would just like to encourage applicants, just remember that you do not need to wait on CSEC passes, CSEC grades rather, but apply, and when you come in, you will have that opportunity to fit within an appropriate program. We are not doing anything different from what we would have done in years gone by as it relates to the number of students. It's just that we are trying to say that with the COVID restrictions, we have to make sure that if we have 12 stations in the kitchen, we have to keep 12 stations in the kitchen. For our labs, We have 30 spaces. We have to maintain that because we do not want to violate COVID policies, and we want to ensure that everyone studies within a safe environment. So the numbers, that's on average what our numbers would be on a yearly basis for students who access the natural science programs anyway. So it isn't anything, nothing new. We are just saying to you, come and let us have a dialogue.
Yeah, it's a real challenging time for education at this time, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. Some persons are behind in terms of instruction because of, they've lost time and so on, and they have to play catch up. And nonetheless, we cannot underscore enough the importance of education, that it is important to our whole holistic development, the development of our society. Without it, basically, we have a problem. And the CFBC, striving for excellence, that's the motto of the CFBC, striving for excellence. And it is an institution that strives to do that and to instill in every student that enters the gates of the CFBC that they must strive for excellence. And so I want to thank Dr. Moya Rotham, the Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs, for the work that she is doing at the college to help students to strive for that excellence. Also, Ms. Wanda Hughes, who is the Dean of the Division of Adult and Continuing Education and former Dean of ASGS. She is executing duties for ASGS at this time. Thank you, Ms. Hughes. You are now part of the walls up at CFBC. You've been there for such a long time, and you have made such a, an important contribution. Thank you for coming and sharing with us today. And Mrs. Carissa Kelly, our Assistant Registrar, thank you so much for the work that you do. And you're the people who work hard and who continue to make CFBC really shine. And that is extremely important. You need all the support that you can get, all the encouragement that you can get, all the resources that you can get to be able to carry out your work. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
You have been listening to another edition of Working for You. I want to thank all of our listeners to today's program. Thank you very much. We continue to appreciate your company from week to week. Next week, we will be back with another edition of Working for You. Until then,